Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I am kind of stepping more into a bit of my psychologist role and the intersection between magic and psychology. And I'll explain why I'm doing this uh, because I wanted to answer the question: is Magic the Gathering good for your mental health? Quite a loaded question. And this question was inspired by a post that I made recently on my channel here, I asked that if people were interested in content around the intersection of magic and mental health. And now, my job that I work as, I have a private practice as a psychologist in California and see clients through that. And so, I have a background in psychology, um, and thought maybe it would be interesting for some people to know my thoughts about the intersection between magic and psychology. And I think there's a lot of richness and things to explore there. Um, and I just put a post out, a little poll out there to my community to see, and overwhelmingly, people wanted to hear what I had to say about it. So I thought that was really cool and kind of flattering, and appreciate it. Then a bunch of comments below, and some of this stuff I want to talk about today are based on some of the comments. There's a lot of really good, interesting comments there. If you want to go to the post and read it, or add to it, feel free. But sounds like people want to hear my thoughts on this, and I'm happy to share. So, a quick disclaimer: I'm not uh, your therapist, or this is just for an online sort of exploration of resources and things that could be helpful to explore, for people to share resources with each other and to kind of have a community to talk about these kinds of things. So, I wanted to start with kind of my ideas around magic and mental health, and this idea that all things, I believe all things sort of have a light aspects and shadow aspects to them. A lot of things could be seen as good, some things could be seen as bad. So, to kind of answer the question, is magic good for your mental health? Well, I think there's two sides of that coin, and I want to kind of explore both sides of it. And we'll start with what I would consider more the shadow side of things here. Um, and mostly, when I think about the shadow side of gaming, you can hear stories of like addiction. Now, in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, it's kind of what a lot of psychologists and other therapists use to diagnose things. There is something called a gambling addiction now. Um, didn't used to be in there, but is now there, as an addiction. So, when you think about the shadow side of things, I first thing kind of came to mind, some of the comments that people were saying in the post was around addiction, or why they someone said like why they keep playing even though they kind of have a bad experience or something along those lines. Um, and so I think magic can be addicting, to some degree. I listed here the sort of the criteria for gambling disorder. I'm not going to go over all of these. You could read it, pause this, and read it if you want, or do some more research. And then there's some hotline numbers here. This is certainly an issue for some people. So, there's a lot of support out there. If this is you or someone definitely reach out to hotlines or support groups, things like that. I'll talk about some more resources at the end, but yeah, some people may consider um, magic gambling. I'm not sure if there's been like a definitive definition of that yet, but there is also obviously some randomness to it. Money is involved, of opening the cards and winning tournaments and things like that. So, there's some overlap, I would say, here. And if you read this and it kind of resonates with you, something to just take note of. So yeah, so gambling addiction, and I believe that they're actually um, creating, or they're considering a diagnosis for internet gaming addiction in the next version. Something they're doing more research on, et cetera, et cetera. So, um, just something to kind of keep in mind, as I kind of am going to go through a little bit more in depth on what I consider the sort of shadow side of uh, magic, and things that I've kind of experienced personally. And I've been playing the game since I was a kid, actually, kind of off and on throughout my life. I started when I was in elementary school, and Revised first came out, and that was a big deal. Everybody wanted a Sheevan dragon, and so did I, of course. And it's kind of funny that actually the school that I was at, the elementary school, Magic became so popular that they actually ended up banning the game from the school because some kids were getting their cards stolen, and it was kind of creating conflict. And the teachers were afraid kids weren't going to exercise as much if they were playing so much Magic. And so it kind of there was the school saw some of the shadow aspects potentially, I would say, although I think they kind of overreacted personally. But um, that I still kind of played somewhat after that. And then in high school, I found a group of friends that played. And in college, I got really into the competitive aspect of Magic. And I'll talk more about that too later. But the point is, I've kind of been playing off and on throughout my life, and started my channel about a year ago. This channel about a year ago, kind of focusing more on the creative aspects of Magic. But um, some of the kind of shadow side aspects is that kind of difficulty stopping even when you want to. So that's kind of maybe more of the addictive piece here. I know I've experienced that. It's kind of hard to stop and keep playing the next game, the next game, the next game, staying up late at night, losing sleep over it. Um, I've experienced that. I think I've worked on that a lot within myself, and kind of come to a healthier relationship with Magic. But there has been times when I know that that has happened, and I think some of my friends, people that I know, have experienced some difficulties with the game as well. Preoccupied or thinking about it a lot. Those late nights. Occasionally, I love to create combos and think of different interesting ways of the the cards working together, and decks, and building decks in my mind at night and not being able to sleep. And it doesn't happen all that often anymore. But when I was younger and I was really into the competitive side of it, I think that would happen um, more often. Just kind of really getting caught up in the thinking about it. Ruminating is sort of the technical term for that. And then a way to avoid negative feelings. I think this kind of again can be not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes having a game or an escape from negative feelings or a difficult situation can be useful. Um, but if you're completely avoiding all your feelings, that's usually not the healthiest approach. You want to have some time or an outlet or a space where you can process your feelings and feel them and be okay with them and let them move through you. And so if you're kind of using this, or obviously there's many things you could distract yourself with in our world today. But this could be one of the things that you are sort of avoiding your emotional aspects of life by playing so much Magic. I think that is something I used to do, especially when I was like in high school. I was very, very shy, and not very outgoing. And in some ways, there's some positiveness to this. But I wasn't really in touch with my emotional aspects. And so that was kind of one way of avoiding, I think, some of the pain I was feeling from loneliness as a teenager. But the key thing I would say when you're really looking at the shadow aspects and of this is like, what is the cost on your life? Because some people can play lots of Magic and it doesn't really have any negative effect on them, and some people can play some and that will have some negative cost on their life. So it really is, again, personal, and you have to do some self-reflection and understand your own kind of history with the game, your own relationship with the game, your own personal history with like addiction, things like that. Everybody's different, of course. So, hopefully this video inspires some self-reflection. But the significant cost. So, like on your relationships, romantic relationships, do you feel like that's getting in the way of that, or the relationship you're in, if you're married, is it kind of negatively affecting that? With Is it negatively affecting friendships? Now, of course, it could improve your relationships in some ways, and I'll talk about the light aspects in the next slide here. But it certainly has the potential to. I've heard stories of negatively affecting relationships, school or work. If you're playing to the extent where you're not working anymore, it's affecting your schoolwork and all that, your income, things like that. Health, I think, could be a big one. For me personally, again, I think that maybe that was the biggest cost. I talked about like not sleeping as well because I was playing so much, or um, sometimes the big tournaments are pretty difficult on your body to be sitting all day, or just like to be really thinking and using your mind so much, and that you to kind of ignore your body and your health. And you know, that's kind of something that I experienced in the past when I was playing very competitively. So yeah, some self reflection about the shadow aspects I think are useful, kind of understanding your own relationship with these pieces. And yeah, let me know in the comments below too, and if there's any other ones you've noticed with the game or within yourself. um, those are kind of the main thoughts I had with the shadow sides of it. So let's kind of switch gears and flip the coin over here and talk about the light aspects, because I think there's a lot of mental health benefits to Magic as well that I've personally experienced, and one of the reasons that I love the game so much, and think it's just a really great game in a lot of ways. Let's focus on this aspect. So first one, community. I think, and I think there's been a big push, especially after COVID and before COVID, that to continue this the gathering, as they call it, sort of a slogan that they have, obviously the name of the game. But I do think that's a significant piece of why I have enjoyed the game, and something that really has helped me come back to the game. Again, in high school, like I was very shy and didn't wasn't very outgoing, but finding there was a group of friends I saw, or people I saw playing Magic, and I was like, oh, I used to play that game when I was a kid, and I really connected with them and met one of my best friends through the game. Um, so kind of forming that community, the friendships again when I was in college, it was another way to connect with other people and find community, common goals. When I was in college, I got more into the sort of competitive aspects, and we would kind of support each other and push each other to kind of be better at the game and to place higher in tournaments and things like that. And sometimes it's just sort of an excuse to connect, right? I've heard stories of people like traveling to other countries or moving to another country, or different part of the world that is didn't know anybody, and they went to a card shop and they found connection through this game. And I think at the best, a lot of games have that really potential to connect us and to give us an excuse and a sort of to connect, and finding a support group through the game. So I've heard lots of really great community stories in that regard. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest light aspects of Magic that I've noticed within myself and others. And I think just fun and enjoyment obviously is another big piece here. Humor. Sometimes the game just makes you laugh. It's kind of ridiculous. It's unpredictable. It's just fun. There's new cards, new sets coming out. There's a lot of novelty with what's happening. I know no two games are the same. I do kind of want to distinguish, fun enjoyment between like addiction, because sometimes those can feel similar. Like with addiction, there's often like a dopamine release in your brain. Like you kind of get this quick hit, and you kind of feel like you have to keep getting that hit over and over again. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. That's sort of more the shadow side. The light side here is that there's a sense of like satisfaction. Like you can enjoy playing the game, you play the game, and then you can put it down for a bit, and you can do something else. But you know that you can kind of come back to it. But there's like an even sense of satisfaction and fulfillment with the game, and that it provides like positive and happy memories that we have. Again, with maybe the people around us, and that we enjoyed it, or just like the experience of the game was was fun. And so it's a way of kind of expressing yourself in that regard, and enjoying life. Okay, and then a big one, for me with starting this channel is creativity. I think that's Magic. One of the reasons I love the game so much is that there's a lot of creative aspects to it, and there's some interesting creative processes that you can go through with the game if you engage it in that way. But something I love to do. First of all, I think that the art in the game is amazing. The artists work really hard and create beautiful things for the game, and most of the cards. It's just wonderful to look at. The sort of aesthetics of the game is really cool and kind of inspiring, at least for me to do that. I love to kind of just look at all the cards and be like, wow, it looks really amazing. I love Adamo creativity too. I love this little art, and that's why not only did I use it because of the name, but also I just think the art is so cool with the blue and the red and the all the different colors. And anyways, uh, not an artist, but It's a really cool art, but also outside the box thinking, obviously. Um, Something I love to do, kind of playing something different, doing something different, creating something that people don't expect, with deck building, even within the game too, and playing. Some people, there's like interesting creative lines that you can take that people wouldn't think about before. And so I think there's a lot of room for kind of self-expression with Magic, and creativity, which is really cool and something that I really enjoy about the game, and kind of give people that moment like, oh, whoa, I never thought about that before, or I've never seen this card or this deck like this. And so, yeah, definitely something that's very unique about Magic, that I really enjoy. Okay, and then I think also the strategy and mental thinking. Obviously, there's a lot of there can be, if you see it from this perspective, there can be a lot of math and probability involved in Magic, logical thinking, problem solving. There was like, I don't know if you ever saw the Magic, the puzzling. I don't know if they still do that, but it was like in those Inquest magazines. I remember as a kid reading them and trying to solve the Magic puzzles. And um, some games you play, there's sort of like a puzzle. You have to count up the damage. Math is for blockers, right? Um, so there's certainly some sort of mathematical, logical aspect to the game, which is kind of interesting. I feel like because it engages you in multiple aspects. One of the mental and other creative aspect, but also kind of helps you understand the systems. There's obviously rules to the game that you kind of have to understand to play it well, and there's a system that you're kind of playing within or trying to break, which is kind of interesting as well. So all those aspects I think are great for kind of mental development and just make the game more interesting for sure. Um, and then over here, lastly, over here, I think competition, and I'm putting this in sort of the light side because I do overall think this is um, a light aspect of the game. But I do think there can be some shadow aspects to the competition. Like I mentioned before, I was very competitive uh, player when I was in college. Um, you know, top aided quite a few PTQs. Played the Pro Tour once. Played in nationals a few times. Things like that. That was a long time ago. When I was, in better health and physical health, and generally was more motivated. And maybe I'll get back to that as I'm sort of recovering. Um, from a physical health thing right now, but I would I was very competitive with with the game, and really wanted to win. And I think my ego was really involved when I was very competitive, and so I think I've experienced kind of both aspects of it, because I think the competitions are great in a lot of ways. They kind of they bring people together, and they kind of inspire people to maybe play better or to improve and work with teams. And I think all of that is really cool and amazing. But I've also seen some within myself and some of my friends and people I used to play with or against, really kind of, you know, losing. I think is hard for people who are very competitive and they really don't want to lose. And Magic is a tough game for that because I think you can't control everything in Magic. There's some variance. There's some, no matter how good you are at the game, you're not going to win every single game because there's always some randomness involved. You're not going to win every single tournament, and you have to kind of accept that, I think. But if you have, if your ego gets really involved in it, you can get quite defensive or angry or sad, salty, as they say, when you lose. And or winning can kind of fuel your ego if you're like competing just because you feel like you need to kind of boost your self-esteem, and this is the only way you can kind of prove yourself and feel like you're a competent person by winning a competition. Something just to kind of be aware of, I think, with a competitiveness. Um, but again, if these things kind of show up, if the shadow side of things show up, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of bringing to the surface things about you that you may want to examine and look at, and that need healing, basically. So, I think my ego needed to learn how to let go of being so attached to winning or being the best at things. And that was something that was being shown to me through the game. And so, yeah, I think I still get upset sometimes when I lose, but I think I'm able to let it go much easier. And, that's not really my focus of the game as much anymore. Maybe in the future when I will return to playing more competitively. I'm not sure exactly, but right now my focus is sort of the creative and self-expression aspects of the game and creating an online community here. So competition, yeah, let me know what your experiences with this one is. I think that's kind of an interesting aspect of the game that I've seen kind of go both ways for people. But let's jump into the next slide. So yeah, overall, I think those are the main light aspects. Let me know if there's any other ones that you can think of that have been a positive for you. But I'd invite you to kind of examine your own relationship with Magic. I think everybody has a different relationship to the game. The game itself is what it is, and we are who we are, and that we each have a unique relationship. And to kind of be honest with yourself about if some of the shadow aspects are showing up, what are the light aspects that really matter to you with the game. Being kind to yourself if you do any self examination around this. Um, and yeah, I just think this is it's just such a rich um, area of examination and such a wonderful game in so many ways that it kind of brings out so many different parts of us uh, in many ways. So uh, you know, which of the shadow and light aspects resonate with you? Again, everybody's different. Love to kind of hear from you if you want to share in the comments below if any of this resonated with you. And then also want to kind of share a few resources. Um, you know, if you are struggling with any sort of addiction, mental health issues, you know, there's lots of support groups out there. There's even this hotline in America, the 988. It's fairly new, I think. So it's like 911 for emergencies. This is more for mental health support. 988. Um, in other countries, I think there probably are other ones. I'm not too aware of what they are, but other supports like good friends and family. Make sure the friends are actually good friends and not people that are kind of like judge you or like say like, oh, you're bad for feeling this way or whatever. Um, make sure they're actually good, supportive people. Support groups are out there for all sorts of mental health, addiction issues, and things like that. Seeing a good therapist, obviously, I would recommend. Uh, and just engaging in your community or finding good communities, even within Magic, or people that you can kind of talk to, spiritual communities. And for me personally, like finding meditation has been really helpful to kind of help me with a lot of things in my life. So, um, yeah, hopefully those are some good resources to consider. Just a little bit of something that helps me personally. That if I find myself kind of caught up in more of the shadow aspects of Magic or anything in life, really, if I get kind of caught up in my ego or anger or fear, all those things, that just to pause and take a deep breath, acknowledge my feelings, know it's okay to feel how I'm feeling, and also remind myself kind of what are the light aspects of this that I'm wanting to engage in. Like, why does this game matter to me? What's the community or the creativity or the goals that I really have with the game? Um, you know, why does this game matter? What are the light things? What are the good things I'm getting out of it? And redirect your focus back to those, um, because those are ultimately what's going to pull you forward, and the things that when we kind of look at our life on the bigger scale that we're going to be grateful that we focused on. So um, that is my encouragement for you. I think overall everybody kind of needs to find the balance with the game that works for you, the relationship with the game that works for you. I think it's totally fine to take breaks from the game. Um, I have, and that can help me kind of feel you know re-inspired to come back to it when I want to, and also just kind of focusing on the big picture of my life. There's obviously Magic is one aspect of a rich, fulfilling life, and hopefully you find a nice balance that works for you. So thanks so much for listening to this sort of talk, this presentation. I hope this was somewhat useful. I'm not really sure. Give me some feedback and let me know if you enjoyed it, if it was helpful, and if you wanted me to do more videos about kind of my perspective on the kind of mental health aspect or psychology aspect of Magic. I think there's kind of some interesting comments I got in the post that I did, and but again, feel free to comment on the video and let me know if this was useful and helpful to you. And I'm happy to do more of these types of videos in the future. if this gets a good response. And if not, then I'm happy to keep making more combos. I will, again, continue to do more combos. I love obviously making uh, new decks and playing the game too. So that'll definitely be a big feature of this channel. But happy to mix these in as well uh, if you all are enjoy this. So again, thanks so much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, really appreciate it. I did also add a if you want to get early videos, you can join the channel, get the videos early, and support the channel. Really appreciate that. But all the likes and comments also really help as well. And yeah, just thanks for being here. Um, I will see you in the next video.